so excited to have Congressman Jim Jordan on the show today. It's going to be very interesting. You know, he's the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, and he is demanding to get answers from Merrick Garland and also the FBI putting a counterterrorism tag on parents. Can you guys believe this? We need to be 100% on board in exposing these criminals in Washington, D.C., because that's what they are. These are the kind of people that are going to try to get away with everything by usurping our power as the American people. They don't even have any business spying on Americans the way that they do, threatening Americans the way that they do. These agencies, we have entrusted them with our taxpayer dollars to have them do the work for us, to protect us and to protect our children. And instead, they're utilizing it against us. We need to expose that. We need to keep doing our job in exposing it. And that's what Congressman Jim Jordan is doing. And that's what we're going to be talking to him about. We're also going to get his thoughts on Kenosha and so much more. You guys, please follow and subscribe. Get all the links at sarahacarter.com. Remember, go to sarahacarter.com. We've got a great website. It's revamped. It's beautiful. While you are there, I want you to sign up for our email list. This is very important. If you sign up for our email list, you will not get shadow banned, because I will get the stories directly to you. Because it's only going to be by you and I working together and the rest of the country. We work together as a family that we're going to be able to stop this government overreach that is really, really terrifying me. I'm starting to think that I'm living in some either banana republic or some transformational fascist state, right? We don't want that to happen. Folks, now is a critical time to be vigilant in the defense of our freedom, and there is no better way than doing so than by joining the Association of Mature American Citizens. AMAC believes in fighting the good fight against reckless government spending like what we've been seeing with the Biden administration. And by the way, the ever-expanding scope of the federal government. They believe in helping small businesses, securing our borders, supporting our military, and respecting our veterans. They believe in standing for the flag and kneeling before God. You cannot get better than that. By joining AMAC, you're taking the first steps to saving the America you love. Don't trust that other group. You know, that other alternative group I'm not even going to mention right here. They try to reach out to you, but they don't have the same conservative beliefs that AMAC does. They have a liberal agenda. Look, I stand with AMAC, and I hope that you will too. I encourage you to join today at amac.us/Carter. That's amac.us/Carter, CARTER. The benefits of membership are great, but the cause is even greater. Join today at amac.us/Carter. So I was in Kenosha from Monday through Saturday, about 5 days. My family missed me terribly, but it was a very important assignment, I believe. More than important. It was the whole nation was watching what was happening with Kyle Rittenhouse. Everybody in Kenosha, I got to tell you, from the time I arrived there up until the time the verdict came in where he was found not guilty on all counts, the right verdict. But up until that point, people were nervous. They were afraid. People were scared. They didn't want to see the kind of rioting that they saw in 2020. I said, it's so cold. I don't even know where people would come from to riot out here, because it was literally God's blessing that it was like 32 degrees some nights, right? There were people out front. They were protesting. They were upset. They were screaming, some of them were just saying their piece. Others were just there to support Kyle Rittenhouse. Others were there to protest against Kyle Rittenhouse. But overall, people were calm. Things were okay. Thank God. And nothing bad happened. But that didn't last for long, did it? That didn't last for long, because tragedy fell on Wisconsin, at the Christmas parade. I mean, my heart just broke when I saw what happened in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Here was a night people were supposed to be out celebrating. We're done with the COVID. We're having a parade. The trial's wrapped up. Kyle Rittenhouse has been freed. He, on all counts, not guilty. People are out on Main Street. They're in the Milwaukee suburbs, just excited. Christmas parade, Thanksgiving around the corner. And just before Just before 4:40 p.m., a driver in a red SUV, a massive SUV, storms past the barricades and barrels through a crowd, striking dozens of people, putting 40 injured, 5 people killed, possibly more. These numbers can change. More people may lose their life completely. And imagine the injuries that the others have suffered. Imagine what's going to happen on Thanksgiving. This is horrific. This is horrific. And by the way, this guy, Darrell Brooks, this guy who committed this atrocious crime has a rap sheet that you can't even imagine. You can't even imagine. And the mainstream media was basically tiptoeing around this, not knowing how to handle it. Why? Because he's a black man in his 30s. They didn't know how to deal with it. I guess MSNBC or MSDNC, like Sean would say, is, would have a heyday if this was some supposed white supremacist. This is how crazy we have become in our country. This is how divided we have become. Let me read you some of the rap sheet on this guy right here. Let me just read the rap sheet on this. By the way, he was just released several days before that incident happened on bond. On bond. This guy has been arrested for resisting arrest or obstructing an officer, bail jumping felonies, second degree, recklessly endangering safety, domestic abuse assessments, disorderly conduct, domestic abuse assessments, battery and domestic abuse assessments, and he has some sexual offense charges against him in the state of Nevada. This is the reason why Senator Tom Cotton tweeted out, we need to get rid of all the George Soros funded DAs, district attorneys. Do you guys know about this? I'm not making this up. No, they're not going to be able to shut me down over this. This is a Los Angeles Times story. Of course, it's going to lean to the left, but let me read it to you. Here's why George Soros liberal groups are spending big to help decide who's your next district attorney. Do you see the hell in San Francisco, what's happened there in that city with its district attorney? That was also a George Soros funded district attorney. Wealthy donors are spending millions of dollars to back would-be prosecutors who want to reduce basically incarceration, crackdowns on drug sales and drug addicts. They want to revamp the whole bail system because they say it unfairly imprisons poor people before trial. I want you to think about what they are doing. They are not doing this. George Soros is a billionaire who hides in his big billion-dollar castles and yachts with his young wife and does whatever he wants. This 80-something-year-old guy, you just look up interviews with him. He loves to manipulate. He loves to manipulate. He has a dream of manipulating countries, currencies, people, things. He just does it. It's like fun for him. He's a big liberal. His effort was basically done. It's a long-time campaign by his liberal groups to reshape the nation's criminal justice system. Los Angeles Times YouTube, in case you want to try to nix me for saying anything about George Soros. This is from the Los Angeles Times. The New York billionaire George Soros headlines a consortium of private funders, the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, and other social justice groups and Democratic activists targeting 4 of the 56 district attorney positions up for election. This was on June 5th. This story out of the LA Times. This was on May 23rd, 2018. Now we see what he has done to our country. While we were not looking, while we were asleep at the wheel, a lot of our district attorneys have been put in place by money funded by George Soros and his groups. That's pretty scary. And it's very, very real. And that's the reason why you can thank George Soros. You can thank all of these folks for what we're seeing across our country, for these criminals that are being allowed to do whatever they want. That guy is nothing more than a criminal. Speaking of criminals, by the way, you guys see what happened with Andrew Cuomo? I mean, look at me. I'm Andrew Cuomo. You know, I grabbed some girl in the ass and I end up going to jail for that. I don't go to jail for all the elderly that I killed. crazy. This guy, this governor, right? Another criminal, another democratically run city. New York City, it's falling apart. By the way, Bill de Blasio is just as much of a mess. But I want to read this to you. This is from the report, right? The New York Assembly Judiciary Committee has released its report, finally released it, on former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Its conclusions. Polk County has completed its work and issued a report to the members of the committee, which I herewith transmit to you for your review. The report concludes that former Governor Cuomo, 1, engaged in multiple instances of sexual harassment, including by creating the hostile work environment and engaging in sexual misconduct. Think about that. Utilize state resources and property, including work by executive chamber staff, to write, publish, and promote his book regarding his handling of the COVID-19 crisis, which he said he did an amazing job at. And I am disgusted by any New Yorker who still, but I saw interviews who supported that guy. Right? Thank God for Janice Dean. She didn't care what anyone said. She's like, I'm calling him out, and I do not care. She lost her in-laws because of Cuomo's decisions. His book was a project for which he was guaranteed, at least, listen to this, you guys, this is how they pocket the money. They're not serving you. These people, which I'm going to talk to Jim Jordan about, you're going to want to hold on, because Congressman Jim Jordan, the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, has a lot to say about the swamp. They don't care about you. He was guaranteed at least $5.2 million in personal profit from this, from his lies in his book. And then the last thing in this report, which should be the first thing in this report, was that he was not fully transparent regarding the number of nursing home residents who died as a result of COVID-19. If you put people recovering from COVID or with COVID in a nursing home with people who are susceptible to COVID and can die from COVID, you are literally killing them, right? I don't think I'm wrong here. But they care more about this weird sexual harassment stuff. I'm not saying that these girls should not be vindicated, or these women who had to deal with that disgusting man, Andrew Cuomo. He's like, you know what he reminds me of? You remember, like, okay, I'm going to go back a little bit into high school, but you know, he's like the guy in high school that's always harassing all the girls. Just like the one dude in high school that thinks he's the shit. And he is constantly like harassing every girl around. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like it was like those 80s movies where like people would try to get him to stop and he wouldn't stop. That's the kind of guy that Cuomo is. He insults people. You know, he's probably the guy that beat the shit out of other guys just for fun. He and his brother over at CNN, the fake news network, Chris Cuomo. What a faker that guy is too. Man, they're just, they should be ashamed of themselves. Their mother must just be like hanging her head low going, what did I do? I raised a couple of spoiled, rotten brats. But that, by the way, who killed a ton of elderly people with his decisions to put people in these nursing homes. I'm sorry. That should have been at the top of the list. Was not fully transparent regarding the number of people that died. Why? Did he feel like responsible for it or something? Making $5.2 million off of a book? I mean, what a joke. What an embarrassment. You know? What an embarrassment. And by the way, Mayor Bill de Blasio, I pray to God that guy just disappears from political life, right? I mean, he can go ahead and he can march down streets and play drums and, you know, be his communist self wherever he wants to go to Guatemala, wants to beat on some drums there, turn, you know, Central America back to communism. He can try, but just get out of New York City and politics. It's a joke. It's a joke. He called Kyle Rittenhouse a violent gunman after the verdict. By the way, President Biden also was insulting Kyle Rittenhouse. I certainly hope, Kyle, if you're listening to this podcast, that you just sue the pants off of all of them. Sue the pants off of all of them. Nobody deserves to be belittled and ridiculed and lied about. The defamation lawsuit that he has against these people is unbelievable. Right? So just as he was being acquitted, de Blasio falsely calls the two men, by the way, you could read this story at saracarter.com, who were killed by Rittenhouse as victims. As victims. These guys were bad dudes. They were seriously bad hombres. Remember when Trump used to say that? That's a bad hombre. These two were bad hombres. I'm not saying they deserve to die, but Kyle Rittenhouse had every right to defend himself. One of these guys is a child molester, a pedophile. I want you to think about that. I mean, we're seeing things happening in our country that are so upside down and so on their face upside down that I can't even believe it. Everything from smuggling people into the country, the border wide open, our national security at risk, people lauding these criminals that were on the street, Antifa, that were burning down our cities. Remember that? Did we forget about that? Even after George Floyd, we saw what happened in Portland, Oregon, in Seattle, Washington, in Kenosha. Now we see this this horrific attack at a Christmas Day parade by this man, Darrell Brooks, who allegedly just drove his SUV straight into these folks, plowed straight through the barricades, and just killed 5 so far, 40 injured. We really live in an upside down world, and it's up to all of us to start speaking out. We can't be asleep at the wheel anymore. We can't be the silent majority. We have to defend our children. We have to protect them against this craziness that they're trying to teach in our schools, this critical race theory. And by the way, everything else, these transgender studies in kindergarten. I mean, I can't even believe I'm saying this. We have to protect our children. We have to protect our nation. So stop sleeping at the wheel. You and I together, we can do this and we can make a difference. Guys, it's getting cold again. Trust me. I was in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and the best way to keep myself warm was wearing heat holder socks. Heat holders. It makes the warmest thermal socks around. They keep your feet warmer than just ordinary socks. I didn't even feel the cold. I'm telling you. I wore them with my boots and it was just snug, warm. I didn't even feel the cold in my feet. Even in those coldest conditions. How do they do it? You're asking yourself. Well, Heat Holders uses a 3-stage process with a cashmere-like advanced insulating yarn that's soft to the touch. It isn't rough. It's not like wool. It's really, really soft. Give someone you love the Heat Holders for the holidays. Go to heatholders.com and enter the code Sara, that's SARA, and save 15% off your order. Receive free shipping with any purchase of $25 or more. Don't freeze your butt or feet off this winter. Remember to go to heatholders.com, then use the code Sara, SARA, that's heatholders.com. Heat Holders, it makes life warmer. Here we go. Without any further delay, I've got Congressman Jim Jordan on the line. He's the top Republican on the House Judiciary Committee, and he is demanding answers after the DOJ and the FBI created a threat tag for parents over school board controversies. First of all, thank you so much, Congressman Jordan, for being on the show. You are the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, and boy, do you have a lot of work on your hands.
Well, good to be with you, Sarah. In light of what the Justice Department's doing to parents out there, putting this threat tag on, this label, this terrorist tag on parents is frightening, and so we're trying to obviously put a stop to that and make sure the Justice Department quits doing what they're doing. But it's good to be with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that's one of our top stories that we want to talk about with you, as well as your new book, which I'm very excited about. But I would be remiss if we didn't just stop for a moment and just let the people of Wisconsin know that our hearts are just broken over what happened. I mean, I just returned from Kenosha, and I was thankful and grateful to God that there was not any rioting or anything after the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. Found not guilty, of course, on all counts, not guilty. But, that concern was there among the people. And then to see what happened at this parade is terrible. What are you hearing?
Yeah. No, you're exactly right, and our hearts go out to the. It's been a tough, difficult couple of weeks for the folks in Wisconsin. It's a great state. I went. Actually, my wife and I and family went to University of Wisconsin. Went to school there, so it's a great place. But we're just praying for the families who lost loved ones and have loved ones injured. And for those people who are injured, we're praying for them. I think the whole country is. But it's terrible to see what happened. But the good news last week was, as you point out, you were at the Rittenhouse trial, that those 12 jurors did the right thing. They did the right thing, and God bless this great country and the due process we offer our citizens. And I said to someone, if that wasn't self-defense, I don't know what self-defense is. And so the right decision was reached. It was a win for freedom, a win for due process, a win for the Second Amendment, a win for the country. And that's good to see that they reached the right decision.
Absolutely. There were 7 female jurors, 5 male jurors. They were methodical. The judge actually asked them, Judge Schroeder, congratulated them on, being very thorough and not just, this was no haphazard decision. I mean, we know that Kenosha, what they went through, the people of Kenosha in 2020, it was just horrific. I mean, I was down there, I was talking to folks. They said some of the businesses were still shut down. And so I think that you're right. I think this was definitely a win for justice, a win for the American people. And certainly I'm sure Kyle Rittenhouse and his family must just be so relieved that they're going to be able to celebrate Thanksgiving together and that they can move on with their lives. Yeah,
you could see it. I mean, just his reaction. It was, I know so many people who've told me they got emotional as the verdict was being read. And to see his reaction, the way the world was on this young man for the last year, and so it's good that the right decision, I think, was reached, and I think most Americans understand that and appreciate the fact that we live in the greatest country ever, where it's due process, where you're innocent until proven guilty, and people look at the facts, they look at the truth, they weigh it against the law, and they these 12 individuals. In a tough situation, they knew what was being talked about by the liberal press. They knew what was being talked about outside the courthouse, but from some people. So in a tough situation, they did the right thing, and it's a good day for the country.
Do you think it's just stunning, Congressman, especially being on the Judiciary Committee? And justice is truly the reason why so many people come to the United States. I mean, it's about leaving unjust lands, leaving their countries, basically giving up everything, coming to a new country, becoming a citizen of this great nation. And we see what's happening in the Justice Department, and it's really quite shocking. I mean, to see under Merrick Garland what is going on, and it seems to be like 1,000 times worse than what I remember happening under the Obama administration, although I keep saying that the Obama administration hid it very well as compared to the Biden administration. It's just very out there and blatant and in your face.
Yeah, no. This I keep coming back to this. The Garland. I mean, you have the Garland Justice Department spying on parents, putting using the counterterrorism division, using counterterrorism measures against American citizens, against moms and dads. Then you have the Justice Department, the Garland Justice Department raiding a journalist's home and taking his phone. I mean, this is right. Unbelievable. And then I guess kind of finally you had Jerry Nadler on last Friday after the Rittenhouse decisions suggest that he wants the Biden Justice Department, the Garland Justice Department to go after Kyle Rittenhouse. This is frightening where they're at. And it's why it's so important we stay on them. We highlight exactly what they're doing. We call them to stop, and hopefully with enough pressure and enough people pushing back, they're going to do the right thing and stop this attack on parents, stop what they're doing to Mr. O'Keefe, and not go further investigate the Rittenhouse family.
Well, I think this is what's so frightening to so many Americans, and I think thank God for you being on the senior member on the Judiciary Committee, the ranking member, because without you fighting back, I don't know who would fight for us. You brought up, James O'Keefe and what happened with him, and the fact that that basically Merrick Garland had people storm his home. The FBI did. They were sequestering his telephones. They had him handcuffed in his underwear in the middle of his hallway, which was, I honestly don't know how any journalist or lawmaker could be okay with what happened to him. And then you talk about the parents, and I talk to parents all the time, Congressman, who are terrified. They're like, am I going to be called a domestic terrorist if I stand up to my school board because of critical race theory? Am I going to be called a domestic terrorist because I believe in God and my country and want to see an American flag in our school? and not the gay pride flag. Not that they have anything against the gay pride flag or another flag. It's not that they're against anyone. They just want to be for their nation. And now we have the President Biden, basically still slamming and slandering Kyle Rittenhouse with other lawmakers and MSNBC. So all of these agencies are weaponized in such a way that we're actually, and I'm including myself, and just like you would and every other American, that I'm actually very concerned, and I know my listeners are too, that we are facing a weaponization of our agencies that we may not be able to get back.
Yeah, it's particularly with the attack on parents spying and the labeling of parents by the Justice Department. Remember when Merrick Garland testified in front of the House Judiciary Committee, he told us in no way were they treating parents as domestic terrorists. The problem was the day before, because a whistleblower brought this information to our attention, the day before that, on October 20th, 24 hours before he made that statement, there was an email sent out to all the special agents in charge, FBI agents around the country, saying, hey, use this threat tag, go after parents, here's what you're looking for, look for a federal nexus. I mean,
right.
it was doing exactly what he said he wasn't doing. And so we need to have him back because I think he misled us. I think he misled the country. And frankly, the first question I would ask him is, what's the number? What's the number, Mr.
Right.
Coleman? What's the number? How many parents have this tag now associated with their name? Sarah?
And how many parents have like a FISA or have been spied on because they've now called them a domestic terrorist? Could they get warrants on them?
That's what I want to know. I want to know how many it is, and mostly what I want is I want this to stop because this is not supposed to happen in the United States of America.
What can you do? What can your committee do? I know we're in the minority. I mean, as far as the Republican Party is concerned, but what can you do to investigate this? Can you have a separate investigation? Is it almost impossible because they're...
Yeah, it's tough because they got the subpoena power, they got the majority. But what we can do is just like we did with the IRS a decade ago. Remember that was the Obama-Biden IRS who was targeting conservatives around the country. They had that similar list, the BOLO list, much like this threat tag. That first time when I first read the email that the whistleblower got to us, the first thing I thought of was this is like what the IRS did when they had their BOLO list. Be on the lookout for these people, these names, these
right.
terms, this stuff. So first thing, but remember with that, we were actually able to stop that, even though it was the Obama administration and they controlled the Justice Department. We were able to pressure enough for them to actually stop what they were doing. Now, we had the majority in the Congress, so we were able to get more documents and do more subpoenas. But just by raising the issue and getting the truth out to the American people, the IRS said, wait a minute, we better stop this. And they did. So we got to try to do the same thing now.
Right. I think that it's essential that we do that same thing. And considering what the Biden administration wants to and has, I believe, weaponized the IRS now, right? So it's like we have another issue with the IRS. It's like everywhere we turn, we are seeing issues. What do you say to California Democrat Ro Khanna, who said you don't understand executive privilege? Almost like Biden has the authority to do almost anything he wants. And sorry, Congressman, but you don't understand that.
Well, look, it's. I think what they did to Steve Bannon is wrong. But that situation is different than what at least they're hinting at doing to Mark Meadows. Mark Meadows is the chief of staff, or was the chief of staff to President Trump. I mean, this is the most trusted advisor to the President of the United States. We have never
Correct.
held someone in criminal contempt because they wouldn't testify as the chief of staff. Now, you can work things out. You can negotiate. You can get some scope, limited amount of questions. Here's the area. You can do all that, but that takes time and work it out. If whenever this has happened, where a top advisor to the president has actually testified, it's done that way. But what the Democrats are indicating that they're looking at doing is just calling Mark in and saying, you got to answer our questions. Like, that is so dangerous for the presidency, for the commander in chief moving forward. We've never done that in the 200 plus years of this great country. And yet Democrats seem to be indicating that's where they want to go. I find that frightening. What I've said is, if you go there, if you cross that bridge, then okay, what's good for one side is good for the other. Then there are people that, if in fact the American people put us in the majority Republicans, there are people that we're going to want to have in front of our committee to answer important questions and get the truth to the American people too. So just understand, this is wrong if you're going to do this to the chief of staff of the President of the United States. But if you do, if it's good for one side, it's good for the other.
I thought that Mark Meadows, and I mean, truly one of the great fighters against this power overreach. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from former Congressman Mark Meadows, who with you worked diligently to expose probably one of the greatest crimes against a sitting U.S. president and the American people, which was the Russia hoax. So here's what stuns me. None of them have really paid any price. None of them, not really. I mean, even with John Durham's basic, indictments, these are very basic indictments. But the people that were the puppet masters behind this have paid no price. They destroyed, defamed, badmouthed an American president in front of the whole world. I consider it a dangerous disinformation game, one that was literally a deadly game that they played globally with Carter Page and with our president, with all of everybody that they spied on, breaking every rule in the book. No one's paid the price, Congressman.
Sure.
Yeah, but now they're continuing to go after Republicans. They're going after Mark Meadows. They're going after Steve Bannon. They are setting a precedent that we are going to take our political enemies and we are going to utilize our system to weaponize it against them. And I'm scared they're going to go even further before 2022 and 2024.
Yeah, it's scary what they're trying to do, but they seem bound and determined to do it. And you're right. When you think back to the Trump-Russia investigation, it was but for a handful of journalists like you and a handful of members of Congress, we'd have never figured this out. We'd have never got the truth out there. And now, it's so obvious that it was a joke that even the Washington Post has had to go back and correct stories from 2, 3, 4 years ago on this situation. Now, look. The good news is Durham has indicted a couple of individuals, Mr. Danchenko, Mr. Zussman. I think that's a good sign. And his indictments for false statements to the FBI weren't false statements that those individuals made to Mr. Durham and his investigative team. Those false statements were the original false statements, the ones made in 2016, 2017, when they started it all. And we now know in the Danchenko investigation that this was all the way back to when they started, and a 35-page indictment, and it goes right to the Clinton campaign, right to Hillary Clinton's team. So, like we always suspected, it did. So hopefully they'll hold them. There'll be other people held accountable, and that it won't just stop with these individuals. But we'll wait and see.
Absolutely. I mean, does it frighten you though? Does it frighten you? Look at what's happening to Mark Meadows. Look at the price that I think everyone is paid, right, for exposing this huge hoax. Does it ever frighten you that their power grab is beyond what we have ever imagined could happen in the United States of America?
No, it does frighten me. And there's no way the FBI, I'm convinced, how did the FBI not know? How did they not know the dossier wasn't baloney? How did they not know when Zussman walked in and handed them information that he wasn't working for the Clinton campaign? How did they not know that? So maybe they didn't, but it sure seems unlikely to me. And you're right. What we see now that was under the Biden, the Obama administration when they went after President Trump, and now here we are under the Biden administration, and it's right back to the same stuff. It's pretty darn scary, and it's why we got to get the truth out there so that we can stop them.
Right. This is what your book's about. Do what you said you would do. I love that title for your book, Fighting for Freedom in the Swamp, by Congressman Jim Jordan. Everybody, you guys got to get this book. I'm going to talk to you just a few seconds more about this because I think this is the whole reason why you wrote this. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I always say that we make the job too complicated. What did you tell the voters you were going to do when you ran for the job? If they elect you and give you the privilege of serving, do what you said you would do. And Sarah, you and I know no one did that better than President Trump. No one did more what he told the American people he was going to do than President Trump. So I write a lot about my interactions. I felt privileged to have the chance to spend a great deal of time with President Trump. And I try to take your listeners, the readers, behind the scenes so they know what it's like in these big investigations. I was involved with the IRS investigation, the Benghazi investigation, certainly the impeachment investigation, and give them a flavor for what it's like behind the scenes. And then also some of those key interactions I got to have with the president in the Oval Office and other places that I think your listeners will enjoy the read.
Is there anything that you can tease for us? Something out of the book that you thought was it? I mean, I have always been fascinated by those, secret conversations that people had in the background. How did these stories develop? People always ask me, Sarah, how did you find out about Andy McCabe? I go, it wasn't just one thing. It was a culmination of things that happened, a process by which we were able to unfold what Sean Hannity always calls like the layers of the onion, right? He used to say that all the time, but that's what it really felt like.
Yeah, no, I do that with a number of the investigations, but one of the kind of interesting parts was the day that Steve Scalise and Matt Gaetz and others stormed the bunker in the basement of the Capitol there. And we were inside, Mark and I and others were inside because we were involved in this hearing deposition we were doing. And of course, when those guys come in, Adam Schiff gets all mad. He tries to kick him out of the room, and they won't leave. And then he just adjourns. He's kind of like a kid, taking his football and going home. He just stops the hearing, marches out, and asks me to come talk to him in his office. So I go down to his office, and I took Mark with me and Scott Perry, and it was just kind of funny, the conversation. So I give them a sense of all that, and I think they'll enjoy that story and a number of others in the book as well.
Oh, I'm telling you, I can't wait. I can't wait to get this read, and I'm gonna bring you back on the show to ask questions because Adam Schiff, Morgan Ortagus was on The View with Adam Schiff. Yeah. And I was just like, I couldn't believe watching Adam Schiff just squirming there and with that arrogant look on his face. He always has that incredibly arrogant look on his face. And I think I would have cleaned house with him. I think I would have I would love to get in a debate one-on-one with Adam Schiff because I would have cleaned house with that arrogant man. We know that he spread disinformation. We know that he knew that this dossier, for the most part, was bogus. I'm not going to let him get away with that. He always did that. He went after Devin Nunes. He went after you. He goes after anybody he wants, and he doesn't care what lies he smears about people. He just does it. I mean, and he does it with impunity. He doesn't even care. Yeah, no,
they knew this was bogus, just like the FBI knew this was bogus. The whole dossier, the whole thing. And the president gave a speech. We had a speech a week and a half ago, and he said in his speech, he said, they go out on TV, they lie about us, it's all made up, and they say they're going to put my son in prison. And he said, then they go, but they know it's all false. And he said, then they go behind the closed doors, and he says, I think they laugh about it. And it's like the president talked like a dad in that speech, and he talked about what they tried to do to not just him and to the country and the people who voted for President Trump, but what they tried to do to his family based on nothing, based on complete falsehoods. So it is really troublesome what we see that they tried then. And then when you couple it with what they've done to Mr. O'Keefe, what they're doing to parents, that's why it's so important that we keep fighting.
What they've done.
So important that you keep up the great work you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. And what they've done to Kyle Rittenhouse, and you're right, and what they've done to parents, and what it's a disinformation warfare against conservatives that I've never seen in my life, and against good people. I can't even imagine what kind of world we live in where that is okay, where lies are accepted as truth. What advice do you want to give parents before I let you go, Congressman? I know you're a very busy man, but what advice would you give to parents who are now afraid, who want to be able to speak up for their kids, who want to go to their school board meetings? And who do they turn to if they feel like they're being targeted?
Yeah, no, courage is contagious. One mom stands up, pretty soon it's two, then it's a bunch of parents, and then it's Glenn Youngkin's going to be the next governor of Virginia. So courage is contagious. This country has never been afraid to stand up and defend the truth. We saw 12 jurors do it last week. We saw parents do it in Virginia last month or earlier this month. So that's what we have to keep in mind is what the Biden administration, the DOJ, and the School Boards Association, who put this whole targeting of parents together, what they didn't bank on was moms and dads not backing down. And I've often said, no mom, no high-paid lobbyist, no bureaucrat will ever beat a mom on a mission. And so just understand that this courage is contagious, and I can feel it. In fact, Sarah, I said this in the hearing. When the Attorney General was in front of me at the end of my opening statement, I said, I think your memorandum, Mr. Attorney General, is the last straw. I think it's a catalyst for a reawakening in this country, a reawakening for freedom and for basic values. I think it's going to do that. And I think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing that begin to play out. And that is a darn good thing for our great country.
It has been a reawakening, Congressman. It really has. And thank you so much for doing what you said you would do and for fighting for the American people and the great people of Ohio. I have a lot of love for Ohio, and I hope to be there really soon and working on some stories. So I'll be talking to you about that as well in an upcoming Sarah Carter Show podcast episode. But everyone out there who's listening to the congressman who wants to know what was happening behind the scenes, believe me, you're not going to believe some of the stuff that went on in Washington and why Congressman Jim Jordan, why Mark Meadows, why Devin Nunes, why so many people were fighting the fight to get the truth out to you. You got to get his book, Do What You Said You Would Do, Fighting for Freedom in the Swamp by Congressman Jim Jordan. And they can get that on Amazon, right? I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon.com.
Yeah, you can get that at Barnes & Noble, Amazon today, pre-order, but tomorrow it'll be out in bookstores. And thank you so much, Sarah, and God bless you. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you too, Congressman, and to your beautiful family. And thank you so much for being a part of the show.
You bet. Take care.
Attention, folks. The price of silver has increased 340% since 2000. And by the way, it continues to go higher. Universal Coin and Bullion is offering our listeners a special locked-in price of just $30 for a beautiful 1-ounce 2021 American Silver Eagle coin, the most popular coin in the world for collectors and investors. This limited time offer is available at dealer's cost because Universal Coin wants you to own our first newly designed silver bullion coin since President Reagan signed the Gold Bullion Act in 1985. Call Universal Coin like I did, leaders in the precious metals industry, at 1-800-UCB-GOLD to get your beautiful U.S. Mint silver coin for only $30. Postage is free, and you'll be dealing with experts. In fact, the company's president, Dr. Mike Fulgens, is recognized as America's gold expert, and he is the 2021 Coin Dealer of the Year. They also have rare gold coins, but this special silver deal is only available by using the code SARA, S-A-R-A. Call 1-800-UCB-GOLD. That's 1-800-UCB-GOLD. Guys, do we finally have a Democrat willing to push back on the radical left? I don't necessarily think so. I call Mayor-elect Eric Adams in New York City like a radical light. Maybe he's like a left light. I remember people used to say that about Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. They would say things like, oh, that terrorist leader is Al-Qaeda light. I'm not calling him a terrorist. I am not. Eric Adams has a lot of promise. I mean, definitely 1,000 times better, I think, than Bill de Blasio, but that's not saying much, right? But listen to this. Hawk Newsom and New York Black Lives Matter promised riots and bloodshed. They promised riots and bloodshed if incoming Mayor Eric Adams brings back the plainclothes police to New York City, which, by the way, it desperately, desperately needs. The people of New York City desperately need this. This is important. This isn't about just protecting people in Manhattan. This is about the people all across New York City that are suffering, especially people that are underprivileged or people that don't have money. I mean, this is craziness. I want you to hear these threats. Listen to this.
If they think that they're going to go back to the old ways of policing, then we're going to take to the streets again. There will be riots, there will be fire, and there will be bloodshed. So there's no way that we're going to let some Gestapo come in here and harm our people. Right? We pray for peace, but black opportunities prepares for the worst.
You guys, think about this. This isn't about going after the black community. The plainclothes police is there to help people so people don't get raped in the subway in front of everyone, so they don't get chased down and mugged and beaten, so that people can walk to school in the morning or go to the subway or make sure that their children are safe from gang violence and drug dealers. This is not Gestapo. This is crazy talk. This is crazy. What about us being safe from the criminals on the street? What about my right to walk from point A to point B without being attacked? What about my daughter's right when she was just actually in New York? What about her right to move freely in the city without being harmed or threatened? Hawk Newsom, he's a violent guy. He wants that violence on the streets. Why not care more about, they talk about Black Lives Matter, Look at what's happening in the inner city, in Chicago, in New York City, all across our country, where young people are killing each other, where gang violence is destroying lives and families, where young black men are being slaughtered and ending up in jail. If Black Lives Matters to them, then get out there and help those young men live a full life and not give their lives away and throw them away and not have any aspirations. Stop trying to fight the people that want to protect the communities, like the police, and start helping the young people that are crying out for help in these cities. It just makes my stomach turn. I want you to listen to Eric Adams. He isn't having it. He calls BLM a fringe movement, which it is, and says New York City will not put up with the riots. And that's why I like him so much better than Bill de Blasio.
This city is not going to be a city of riots. It's not going to be a city of burning. This is going to be a city where we're going to be safe. We're going to have the backs of our police officers, but we're going to hold them accountable to do their jobs. And so if fringe elements want to hurl rhetoric like that, that's silly to New Yorkers.
Yeah, he's right. They are fringe elements. Adams says BLM is inventing controversy, but he is committed to making New York safe. I want you to hear this really quick.
So what happened at the meeting, and what's very interesting, the meeting is on Instagram, Facebook Live. It was not a contentious meeting. There was no arguing and debating. I was very clear that my city is going to be safe. After leaving the meeting, they went out and created just this belief that there was some battle that took place behind closed doors. I really encourage people to look at the Facebook Live and the Instagram video to show I'm just clear. We must be safe in our city and in our country. And I ran on that, and I'm not going to break my promise.
He's not. But then all of a sudden, this is the problem that I have with Democrats, guys. Everything that he said, okay, get it. I get it. BLM is the crazy fringe movement right now. It really is. It really is. When you're asking for bloodshed in the streets, I'm sorry. They shouldn't be calling parents who are just advocating that their children have a right education, like in Loudoun County, Virginia, domestic terrorists. BLM went on national television and basically said they were going to cause bloodshed in the streets. I think that's pretty much a domestic terrorist, if you ask me. Right? But then you have Mayor-elect Eric Adams of New York City. Then as soon as the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict came in, this is what he says on Twitter. He says, we should not be shocked. We should be focused on swift and righteous action. This decision is an indictment of irresponsible laws that make our society far more violent and unsafe under the guise of personal freedom and so-called self-defense. It also sends an extremely dangerous message to those in our country who seek an agenda of anarchy. The anarchists were the people in the street destroying the city of Kenosha, burning down their buildings. The police should have been doing the job that they needed to do, but the government of Wisconsin at the time, the governor, wouldn't let them do their job. They didn't even have the National Guard there in the 2020 the way that they needed it to mitigate all of this. Kyle Rittenhouse probably would have never been there had they been able to protect that community. But here you have Eric Adams. That's why I call him light. Call him radical light, right? Radical light. It's going to show you one face, but boy, he's going to jump on that radical bandwagon, him and President Biden and all of them, because they are lying to you, the American people. They're lying to you in the inner cities. You can be anything you want to be. You are not a victim. And even if you are a victim at one point in your life, you can rise above it and be a survivor. You don't need to call yourself a victim. The Democrats feed off of victim mentality. They want you to feel like you're going to have nothing. They want you to feel desperate, in need of a paycheck every month from the government, because that's what keeps them in power. You need to take back your power. We need to take back our cities. Children should not be dying in Chicago, in Baltimore, in Portland, Oregon, in Kenosha. People should be strong enough to stand up for one another. We need to feed all the good things that make us strong, that make our nation beautiful, that take us out of that victim mentality. But here, right again, Mayor-elect Eric Adams going right into the victim mentality, which breeds nothing but fear and then breeds nothing but violence. And he says, often born in prejudice and ignorance, to wreak havoc in their own communities and potentially murder their neighbors. We should not be shocked. We should be focused on swift and righteous action. And then I love what Nando Acosta below in Twitter wrote him. He says, who wrote this for you, de Blasio? It sounds like de Blasio. Kyle Rittenhouse will forever live with what happened that night in Kenosha. That will never leave him. He was defending his life, and he's very young. And the trauma of what happened to him, because he's only 18 years old now, what happened when he was 17, will probably come back again sometime in the future. It's not something that Kyle Rittenhouse collapsed, literally collapsed when the verdict was read, when he was found not guilty on all counts. Can you imagine what was going through this young man's mind? Whether you believe he should have been there or not, whether he should have had a gun and gone over to help, the businesses so that they wouldn't get burned down, whether you believe he should have been there or not isn't the point. Whether that was a good decision or a stupid decision isn't the point. The point is that he had a right to defend himself. The point is that we have a Constitution and we have a Second Amendment. And that Second Amendment should be as protected as any other in our Constitution, if not maybe more so. Kyle Rittenhouse defended himself. He's alive today because he did defend himself. I don't believe he would have been here had he not been able to do that. The jury of 12 made a decision. This is the American system of justice. It is the reason why Mayor-elect Eric Adams, people come from all over the world to the United States of America. A main reason is that we have a justice system, a system of justice that is prudent and that is balanced. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. Nothing is. But it's better than anything else we have out there. And a jury of his peers said he was innocent, and we need to respect that, and we need to move forward as a nation, and we need to realize that there's nothing to celebrate here. In the end, there were really no winners. And that's all I have to say. I hope you all have a wonderful, beautiful Thanksgiving holiday. I hope that you're with your families. I hope that there is peace. I pray for the families that have lost their loved ones in that horrific parade, terrorist attack in Wisconsin. I'm praying for them. I'm praying for those that were wounded, that they heal quickly. And I just say for all of you, whether you believe in God or not, just take a moment to think about our nation. If you do, say a prayer for it. If you don't, maybe have some quiet time and just send good thoughts your way, for everyone here. But I really do believe that together we are going to make a difference. I really do believe that our nation is stronger for each and every one of us. And I really do believe that, if we just take the opportunity to stand up and fight for our country, to speak out, to fight for our children, to fight for our schools, and to believe in our Constitution, that we will never lose this beautiful experiment, this republic, this United States of America, but we'll go on and we'll be a reflection of what other nations can be one day. We'll be that shining beacon of light, right? Anyways, happy Thanksgiving to all of you. God bless you, and God bless our great nation. Today, I'm joined by Rebecca Weber, the CEO of the Association for Mature American Citizens. It's also known as AMAC. Explain the differences. What makes AMAC superior to AARP beyond the fact that we don't agree with their leftist ideology?
What makes us so unique is that we truly do take our marching orders from our membership. Before we go out and about and advocate for any issue, we do consult with our AMAC members, and we do that through a variety of ways. But that really makes us very different, where AARP stood in support of Obamacare, even though their membership was largely against. AMAC will stand in support of our membership. In addition, Sarah, we offer benefits. We offer benefits just like the AARP. Ours are better because we offer choices. For example, you can call AMAC for your Medicare, and we're not going to do a one-size-fits-all one plan. The AARP endorses United Healthcare, whereas AMAC has its own trusted in-house licensed insurance advisors that are working for AMAC, stand for our mission of faith, family, and freedom, and then go about offering real choices. We do a lot of things like that that I think make us very different and make us, quite frankly, better.
Rebecca, thanks so much for being with me today. I'm honored to have you and AMAC as a sponsor for the Sarah Carter Show. For more information, folks, visit amac.us/Carter.